Viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. That's our 2014 Chevrolet. It's a GMC 1500. Kind of the same thing. It's got the big 5.3. Customer complaint is that the battery is always dead. It appears to have a newer battery in it when I went to pull it in. And indeed, it was smoked. There was nothing. Zippy zap, not even a dinger. Threw a jumper on it, brought it in, threw it on the charger for an hour or so, left it on nuclear. Got a bit of a charge and it starts under its own power. Went through, shut the key off, opened the door, latched all the latches. We've got our Vantage multimeter hooked in series, so we're running current through our meter so we can let it sit here for 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, to see where it ends up. Right now, it's holding pretty steady, about 800 milliamps. But I do want to give it some time. It's only been about 10 minutes, however long it took me to do that stuff. So in about a half an hour, 40 minutes, hour, or whatever, we'll check and see, is that the current draw at that current time? If it is, that's way too much. And then we're going to use the process that we've always used to track it down and see where is it going. I guess it's been about 9 minutes because that clock and that resets because I always yanked the battery out of it. So we'll give it some time. And you can see I'm just over here in series with the battery, in line with the battery. I did unhook the little blinky light Rustivator gizmo that all the dealers sell, just so, and they only draw like 1 or 2 milliamps because they're fake. So we'll leave that unhooked, that way we don't get the bleeping light, the blinky light over on the little magic box. You can see that we have something that spikes it up to almost a full amp periodically. Don't know if that's normal or not. But we'll give her some time. See you folks in half hour, 40 minutes. Because I have the patience of a squirrel when I'm trying to hurry up and wait. It's been 17 minutes when I busted out the DVOM. Now you guys have seen in previous videos, if not I'll put a link on how I check for a parasitic draw. And essentially what we do is we measure current, or we measure, voltage drop across the fuse, because if there's current flow through the fuse, there's going to be voltage drop across the fuse. Otherwise, if there wasn't, the fuse wouldn't work. So then, we go down through, and like I say, you'll watch that video, you'll see how I did it. So as I'm waiting for this thing to go down, I'm just kind of poking along and seeing who's hot, who's not. And I got over here to this 20 amp fuse here. And if I put my test leads across it, this is as far as I've made it. I haven't gone across all of them yet, but let me get it on there. These fuses are getting smaller and smaller. Kind of a pisser. But I have about 52 to 53 millivolts of voltage drop across this fuse. Now, if there was no current flow, it should be like this fuse here. I don't know if you guys can see the meter or not, but essentially, let me make sure this is correct. Now this fuse could just be open also, but that's 0.00 millivolts. And when I come here, back onto this one, we are at 52 to 53 millivolts. But like I say, that could be from an open fuse too. So we're gonna yank that out because I'll show you that if that fuse is open, we could be just getting tricked. Let me get a pair of pliers. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna yank that fuse. The voltage over there did not, or the current draw did not change over there. And sure as thunder, that sucker is open. So that's junk. Let's see, where were we? Over here is a cluster of 4, number 15. 1, 2 through 15, trailer park lamp. So anyhow, so that has something to do with those trailer lights. Right, crappy wiring on the trailer. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you that. And I don't know if you can see my screen, but if you see something like that, don't get too awful excited, because that's what it could be. It could be a simple open, or could have found the problem. Unfortunately, we're still waiting. I'm still impatient, and I'm still going to keep checking. 32 minutes has passed, folks, even though it's been mere seconds too. Now I have gone through every single fuse here. The left side instrument panel fuse box, the right side, well, all while waiting patiently, and nothing. Every single fuse that is accessible, so these little low profile fuses, or whatever they call them now, and the mini fuses and the triple fuses, None of them, all at 0.00. So it's kind of interesting because typically one of these circuits will feed, other circuits inside, and usually we'll start to narrow it down. Now, the next thing that has to be done that is not as easy are these J-case fuses, which on these Chevrolets, you can't just pop the covers off them and go across them. So they have the plastic, lid on them. So the only thing you can do at that point is an old dance I call the hokey pokey. And you need to use a pair of pliers. You don't need to turn yourself about. However, I hate doing the hokey pokey simply because when you grab a hold of one of these little guys, you got to be careful because you can break them if you squeeze them. And then when you pull it out and stick it back in, sometimes it resets, whatever module it may have been feeding, which is a pain in the hoo-hoo. Anyhow, I'll save you all the heartache and pain I went through. And I'm doing the hokey pokey out here, and I'm getting all the way down. And it's always the last fuse you pull. However, in this case, indeed, not only was it the last fuse I pulled, it was actually the last fuse in the box to be pulled. So it was this fuse right here. And let me get my meter. Let's see. We're going to look at this again. Now, I haven't gone any further than what I just told you. Now, let me come around here. We'll get a little uncomfortably close. Let's see. Can you see that? If I get it just right, I should make it have a glare and nobody can see anything. 792. Let's back out of this. Let's just get some digital action up here. It may be easier for you to see. And I do care, despite what you may think. So let's see, can you see that? 792 milliamps. Now we come over here to the absolute last fuse. Pretty sure my eyes did not deceive me. But ha-ha! There you go. And strikingly enough, when I reinstalled it, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you hear that, fella? You hear that, Indy? There's something going clicky-clacky when I do that. But I was going to say, oddly enough, when I reinstall it, it just goes back to the 800 milliamps. There's something down yonder that is clicking. However, that's perfect. So that's good. And let's see where we're at here. Make sure we got this right side up. Number 6. So it's this fuse in the fuse box, numero 60. Unos, dos, tres, 4, 5, 6. 4-wheel drive Trek. 4WD TREC, 30 amp. And I do hear something clicking under there. That's weird. Let me, I think this thing's kind of a stripped down job here. Let me look inside, see if it's got the shifter in the floor. Nope, it's got the knob on the dash. She's got a 4-button selectable knob, 2-wheel, 4-wheel, 4-low, and auto. We're going to leave that out. We're going to get us a diagram because we need to know, who does this little guy run? Is it the shift motor? Is it the transfer case lock? Because I believe these have a lock solenoid on the transfer case. Or what in the thunder it feeds. And then we'll have to, I don't know, keep doing the hokey pokey. So I got some diagrams, folks. I think we are safe. We'll turn this off for now, just so our battery doesn't go dead. That's turned off. We'll set our stuff to the side. So we tracked that down relatively quickly there. Good thing we're impatient. We didn't just keep waiting. Let me get a pointing apparatus. We'll utilize this here. Now this is a power distribution diagram, and I know it's not ideal trying to show this, but let's see here. Let me find this one again. So it's right here. And just let me move my camera here a little bit. So let's see, right here. So this 4WD Trek fuse 30 amp, that's one we're at. It comes down, it feeds the transfer case control module, and it also feeds the transfer case motor. So now we know the two things that it does, and being that it feeds that motor and we hear it clicking under there, I got us a diagram for that, something a little more detailed. So we'll have a little peek here at that. So let's see here. I tried to simplify it. I tried to highlight it before I printed it. So there's our fuse again. So we're going to follow both of these out. So now this leg comes out, goes over to another diagram. Comes out of there, comes up into this instrument panel junction. Back out of that junction, down here, across town, back to 19, over here. And then we can see it is the battery plus for the transfer case shift control module, lower left side of dash. So, and it is hot at all times, so that feeds the transfer case module. Now we'll look at the other leg of it. That comes out, goes over, goes down. Roundy town. Comes over here, down, and boom. Transfer case motor on transfer case. And this is what we're hearing down here. Now I believe, our symbol down here, that is our actual transfer case motor. And then there is a position sensor, rotational sensor here of some sort, I believe, on these. I haven't worked on a ton of these four-wheel drives yet, but enough to know I think that's the case if we followed that back. But that's neither here nor there, because we're looking at this here, and that's a solenoid, and I believe it's the transfer case lock solenoid. Now these transfer cases, I believe, have to lock and unlock prior to engaging the motor. You can't just apply power to this motor and make the transfer case motor shift. I know that because I had a guy that burnt his almost to the ground trying to run jumper wires to it. And that's how I know that, because I remember like, oh yeah, wow, yep, okay, it's got a lock. You got to disengage the lock to turn the motor on. So I think that's what we're hearing. So if that's the case, of course I've got these wires now so they're not very bright so we can't see them, but we're going to see, in order for a solenoid to work, it needs a power supply, but then it's going to need the ground supply. So let's see where that comes from. Yellow, brown, goes up and around, down, over, goes to number 9. The 9er goes over here. Transfer case, lock, solenoid, control. So what does that leave us for options? And we know, because it has a full-time power, that that has to be a ground side switch to turn that lock on and off. So the options are something in this control module over here is saying, hey, unlock that little fella. Or B, this thing's short of the ground. So what I would do, if it were me, and in this case it is, we're going to go down to this connector, this big honky right here, because this thing could be either receiving the command to lock or unlock. I guess it is. I don't know which way it goes. I think it unlocks. Or the transfer case motor here is just junk, and we unplug it. If we unplug this connector, jumper just power to this, and that thing still goes ka-tunk, then we know the transfer case motor is junk. Now if we go down here and we check this, and this is indeed receiving a ground signal to say, hey, unlock me, little guy, then we know, all right, well, we got to chase this out. Is this wire short of the ground? Is the transfer case control module gone wonky and trying to do thing on its own with the key off? That's what we need to find out. Let's go down on this old girl and see what we got down there. We're going old school here, folks. Wow, how do you guys do this? So there is our Daewoo shift motor. It says S&T Daewoo. Okay, here's our wires. That's for poop and laughter. Let's unplug it. Come on, baby. I'm going to set you down, folks. So it is unplugged. And I don't see. Now, if we're going to end up chasing this, if it's a short to ground, then we'll obviously throw it up in the air. But it feels like everything is kind of attached back through here. I don't see any green crusties. Theoretically, we can go up there and put our fuse back in it, and we should no longer have a draw. Let's just go double check that. I'm sure this is what we heard clicking and clunking under here. Move that back up so we can see, but I think more obviously we'll be able to see if it clicks. Yeah, I don't hear any clicking. We'll insert that fully, and then we should still be good here. because I haven't opened the doors or done any of that. Boom. Okay, perfect. So we've isolated it to, how about you, good buddy? We've isolated it to that motor. Okay. Let's keep going. Now, yellow with a brown. That should not have a ground on it. We've determined, where was it here? Transfer case lock solenoid control. That should not have a ground on it. So let's grab a powered test light and see if that is the case. Yellow with brown. Red with gray is supposed to be our power, and then yellow brown, which is right. Got yellow purple, yellow black. I assume yellow brown. Did I bring my diagram down? Gosh dang it, I didn't. I think it's the one right next to it. I think it was C and D. Ah, you ding dong. Well, anyhow, we'll have to double check. So technically, our fuse is back in, so we should have power here. We do, and then this should not be a ground. And it is not. It's not dinging away at us anyways. Okay. What we'll do, it's like a ding dong. I forgot my diagram. We're going to have to double check that to make sure. So that's good. We should not have a ground on yellow brown. No ground on the yellow brown unless the module was trying to unlock it. We'll plug this in. It should click. Yep. I do believe that it is shorted internally. Now another way that we could do this, if we could see up in here, I could probably get a mirror. We can hook to just the lock wire, so the second one in from the left side here. We could do that with our power probe, apply power to it, and if this thing locks, then it is junk, because theoretically it should not be able to activate that solenoid without the other side of it. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to try to feel the pins here. You hear that, folks? That transfer case shift motor is absolute garbage. So I'm hoping that made sense to you, folks. Let's just look at it as how do I look at it? You know, we could look at it as a light bulb, perhaps, or anything, you know, a load. You know, it's just a load. So we have battery plus going into a load, in this case a solenoid, and then to turn that solenoid on we need battery negative to activate this, whether it's a motor or a bulb or a solenoid or whatever, you know, whatever it is, whatever type of load that is, we need power and ground to turn it on in this case. In this case, we know we have a full-time power because that's our fuse. And then the negative side is done, you know, by, in this case, by a control module, the transfer case control module. That's what turns that on and off, you know, a transistor. So once we identified that this fuse is the one drawing current, we could hear this solenoid clicking, so we know, you know, our power is going down there, it's going through it and stuff. We need to determine, is this thing shorted out somewheres inside the transfer case lock solenoid or inside that shift motor, or is this wire actually doing what it's supposed to be doing? Is it, you know, providing a ground when it's technically not supposed to? So we went down with our power probe, we unplugged it, and we could see, you know, once we unplugged it, we had, you know, battery plus here, which was obvious, and then we seen here that we had no ground, which was good, because that tells us that there is no ground supply, therefore this has to be shorted internally. To prove that, we took our power probe and we hooked on to just this side of it, you know, isolating, you know, the ground side and the plus side, and we applied our own power to it, completely open circuited on this end, and it clicked. We heard it, thereby making this the culprit. It is 100% shorted out inside of itself, providing itself with its own ground. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, I've failed miserably. in which case you'd want to go watch this guy, because he's awesome. So that's that, folks. A bad transfer case shift motor causing your battery to die overnight. I don't make it up, folks. We just follow the facts. So before you go and start unplugging your radio and sending your cluster in and changing your alternator and 13 different batteries, you know, just use this process, and we have to follow the facts. So the easiest thing, most non-invasive thing to do is how we did it, which we've shown in other videos. Voltage drop across accessible fuses. After that, one leg in, one leg out, you do the hokey pokey, you pluck the fuses, which sometimes is not great. We also learned that sometimes open circuited fuses can give you a false positive. So just be mindful of what you're looking at and follow the facts. Get the diagrams. Where do you get the diagrams? I've done a video on that also. You can go on, you can get the diagrams. You don't need big fancy scan tools and expensive stuff to do this. DVOM, I like to use this one simply because it's easier for both of us to see. And as I age, that's a thing. And that's that. The thing I want you to do before I age anymore is head to that comment section, the comments, the questions, the concerns, the Insty, the Facebook. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.